the executive assistant director for the New Mexico Games with Fred for 27 years. And we also work together for the city. And I want to give you just a little bit of background on Fred and what made him the person that he has been for the last 50 plus years. In his early 20s, when he was in college, he was drafted and went to Vietnam. And believe it or not, he was an MP. The things he saw there changed him and his outlook on life. He came back with the attitude of living life to the fullest, doing the best you can every day and helping people no matter what. If you know Fred, you know that he lives this every day. And that is the passion that he brought to the New Mexico Games. The New Mexico Games began in the late 1980s. The Games didn't do very well the first few years and were close to closing down. They were deep in debt and the sports were all failing. Fred's boss at Parks and Rec, Roger Knight, asked him to take over the New Mexico Games. Fred went to work and began to rebuild the trust and relationships with the businesses and the people of Albuquerque. He went to the vendors who were owed money and told them, "It will take some time, but I will pay you all the money that you are owed." Fred then went to the New Mexico Activities Association to ask for an exception for basketball. He asked if the coaches, high school coaches, could coach their basketball teams for the New Mexico Games basketball tournament. The tournament was held Memorial Day weekend, and at that time the month of May was a closed period, so the coaches couldn't work with their athletes. If this was to be allowed, it would give the coaches an extra time with their teams during the summer. The Games were granted that exception. This changed the New Mexico Games and the basketball tournament. Eventually it became the biggest tournament in the state for many years. He also talked to state legislator Kiki Saavedra and secured the use of UNM facilities at little or no cost. So fast forward a few years from that, Fred and I met playing volleyball. Volleyball, for those of you that don't know, is volleyball on a racquetball court. We played at least one night a week, sometimes more. And most nights the conversation turned to what was going on with the New Mexico Games. Who knew a conversation one night in the parking lot of Midtown Sports and Wellness would change my life as well as Fred's life too. I told him, "Let me know if you need any help with basketball." I was a stay-at-home mom at that time with a 3-year-old. What's a few hours a week for a few weeks out of the summer? Well, 27 years and thousands of hours later, here we are. Together we built the New Mexico Games into a successful multi-sport annual event. We made a great team, but it wasn't always easy. He was always the good guy, and I was always the bad guy. He could never say no. At times we struggled, we fought a lot on how things should be done. It took me a long time to train him on how things needed to be done. We laughed, we cried, and we sat back and watched the faces of the kids and the adults receiving a medal. And in that moment, all the hard work was worth it. As you all might know, Fred likes to talk just a little bit. Fred was always on the radio, TV, or talking to the newspaper, promoting the games and what was going on or what was coming up. Everywhere we went, Fred was telling someone about the games and how they should get in this event or that event. Even when we went to Las Vegas back in the day when it was still the WAC basketball tournament, he would tell everyone we saw, whether he knew them or not, how they should get into the games. If they weren't from New Mexico, they should get in their own state games. Fred never met a stranger. You were just a friend he hadn't met yet. By the time the conversation was over, many times the other person had his phone number and they had volunteered, whether they knew it or not, to help with the games in some fashion. This was even true if you happened to dial Fred as a wrong number. 15 minutes later, they knew all about Fred and the New Mexico Games, and they may or may not have volunteered for that weekend's events. And Fred's laughing because he knows that's so true. Fred is tireless in doing what it takes to make an event successful. It never mattered what it was, he was always willing to do whatever needed to be done. Whether it was sweeping a floor, running to the store, cutting up fruit for the next morning event, or unloading boxes of shirts. And trust me, there was a lot of shirts to unload. He is the type of person that would never ask you to do anything he wouldn't do or wasn't already doing himself. His obsession with sports made him the perfect person to be the executive director of the New Mexico Games. You would be hard-pressed to find someone who knows as much or cares as much about the athletes of New Mexico. 3 things that he always wanted every athlete to take away from the New Mexico Games each year was to have fun, to meet new people, and to make a lifelong friend. Fred spent 30 years building a solid foundation of good sportsmanship, camaraderie, integrity, and goodwill for the athletes of New Mexico. His honesty, empathy, and compassion for others, along with just being a good person, makes Fred truly a one-of-a-kind person with a heart of gold. As the state opens back up after the pandemic, the New Mexico Games move into the post-Fred era. My advice to you is for the New Mexico Games moving forward, is to look to the past to guide your future. An event doesn't just happen. It takes hard work, blood, sweat, sometimes tears, and definitely a lot of Advil. The foundation has been laid, but you do have to continue to build. Never stop fighting to make the games better. When you hand out a medal, to remember to look into the face of that athlete. The smile on their face, whether it's their very first medal or their 10th medal, is the reason to continue on. Take your time and enjoy that moment. The games are poised to continue in the traditions that have been entrusted to you through Fred's retirement and his passing of the torch. Lastly, I leave you with this. Fred, you have been my boss, my mentor, my teammate, my friend, and most importantly, part of my family. We have been through so much together, whether it be our drives to Vegas, El Paso, Cruces, you and Sonny going wherever the Lobos played next, be it Lubbock, Phoenix, Tucson. When you sat at my table to share a meal at Thanksgiving, Christmas, or just because, there was always frothy Jell-O, laughter, and endless stats and stories about the Red Sox, the Lobos, or whatever high school sport that was playing at the time. I am honored to be here today to wish you well in your retirement from the New Mexico Games.
Check. I'm sorry, getting a little feedback there. I apologize. All right, thank you, Adrian. That was amazing. All right, next speaker is the legend himself, Henry Tafoya.
Wow, it's good to be here. When I talk about Fred, it happens again. He's like my brother. Nobody can walk around the concourse of the pit like Fred Hultberg. He walks the concourse like he's campaigning for governor of the state of New Mexico. Everybody knows him, he knows them, and like Adrian said, if he doesn't know you, he's gonna know you, so get ready for a handshake. There are 2 kinds of people in this world, givers and takers. You're looking at the greatest giver I've ever met. Love the way he treats his great sons. It's a love story. Hanging around Fred Hultberg is a love story. A couple of years ago, I hurt my back. Fell down in the gymnasium. And I had a doctor's appointment, of all places. My doctor in this day is in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. Now, they're not going to let me drive my car because they promised me they're going to give me a pill that's not going to make me able to drive my car back. So I'm looking for somebody to give me a ride. I didn't even ask, and he volunteered. Took me to Santa Rosa twice to get my back treatment. That's the kind of man Fred Hultberg is. I know there was a job description when he first took over 30 years ago. Fred, you got to do these 10 things. Fred looked at that 10 and laughed. He quadrupled the 10. He rewrote the script because everything Fred does, he does way beyond the call of duty. And you know it. This is the first time he's ever been late for anything. And I mean it, because he's always 2 or 3 hours way too early.
Yeah.
And anything he's ever taken the responsibility for, he's done it to the maximum and then some. I recalled he was just out of nowhere. Who's the most capable guy that you know that could run the All-American College All-Star basketball game at Johnson Gym several years ago? And cream rises to the top. Mayor Kinney came after him, Jerry Tarkanian, Dean Smith, all the heavyweights found Fred Hultberg because he truly was the only guy that could have got that job done like he did that day. It was a total sellout. He had a remarkable miracle that he had to pull off early in the morning to get the trophies and gifts and whatever he was after that morning. Mayor Kinney got up early, helped Fred. Fred is the man. Nobody moves like Fred will move you. Nobody can do that but Fred Hultberg. I won't stay much longer, but we all love Fred. We all have a story to tell about him. I'm just so grateful that my good Lord in heaven put that man in my life. He's done so much for me all of these years. I can't even remember. I should have written them down, but that would have taken too long. But what an honor to be his friend. There's only one thing wrong with Fred and our close relationship. I'm the biggest New York Yankee fan ever in the state of New Mexico. And Fred is the biggest Boston Red Sox fan ever in the country. So it's like talking politics. Conservative or radical or moderate, you don't go that way. You don't go that direction with Fred and I because there will be a fist fight. I love him dearly, like a brother. And I know when I asked Andres, what's it like filling the shoes of this man? You're gonna have to get some great big shoes. Because this is they talk about legends, they talk about heroes, they talk about special people in a community. That's the special one right there. The greatest giver any of us will ever know, Mr. Fred Hultberg. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. Also, we just, Fred, now it's your time to to shine, to speak. We want to hear a couple stories and just talk a little bit about your career. Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Hultberg.
Wow. I really definitely got tricked, that's for darn sure. I mean, you're lucky to get me here. I mean, it's such a last minute thing, and Brett, I don't even know if Brett knew or not. But he did know. Yeah, here I'm calling Adrian, I'm calling these people, and I just been tricked. That's all there is. Here comes the cry.
We love you, Fred.
Thanks. I mean, this was. I mean, I was the luckiest guy in the world to actually get this job of running the games, because I just love sports so much, and so it wasn't really a job. But I mean, Adrian just did such a wonderful job. Without Adrian and you gotta throw in Alicia too. The two of them were just unbelievable. I mean, they helped me so much. And I don't know what I would have done without them, and just everybody, all the sponsors, guys. I'm looking around here, and the sponsors have been with me for so many years, and years, and just I remember a lot of them first would tell me, well, I'll do it for 1 year, but I can't promise you. And then all of a sudden, they didn't say that. they just did it. You know, I didn't have to even ask them. I just walked up there and they did it for me, and so it made it easier for me. And of course, all the commissioners, gosh darn. You know, the commissioners are the most important thing, really, of the games. Without them, I don't know what I would have done. And when things ran really well, it wasn't because of me. It's because of the commissioners. They were just great. Anyway, I mean, there's so many things that through the games that really. Like me working at the Olympics, you know, that would never happen if it wouldn't have been for the games. And what an honor to be at the Olympics for 21 days, and everything worked out so well. Meeting a fraternity brother of mine at the grocery store at Smith's, and finding out that he lives in Atlanta, and I thought, gosh, here, you know, he asked me, you can stay at my house, and of course, when I asked him, I thought it was going to be a week. I didn't think it was going to be 21 days. And then within the city, you know, I thought, God, they're not going to let me off for 21 days. I mean, that's 3 weeks. And so I asked, and they did, you know. And so I saved up all my vacation time. And then really it was Carl Jackson that actually called me into his office before I left and found out I wasn't getting paid. I didn't get paid a dime. And he says, is that really true? And I said, yeah, I'm not getting paid. He said, I can't believe that you're using all your vacation time. And he says, I'm going to send you TDY. So he did. He sent me TDY, and I saved all the vacation time. It was crazy, all the hours. You could just imagine how many, 21 days. And just the games has just helped me really everywhere. I've been involved with so many organizations. I've volunteered so many times, and I just really enjoy volunteering as long as it had something to do with sports. There's just something about sports that I volunteer for pretty much anything and everything. And man, it was just, oh gosh, it was a long 30 years, but it was worth it. And all the places I've been, if you really remember that, I go to all the national conventions, and And I've been to 25, 30 different cities around the country, and it's just been a great time. It really has, and I just hope the games can keep going, and I hope the city, I know they're not going at a great time with the COVID. This is a terrible time. It was probably a good time that I got out when you think about it. But I hate to say that, but it probably was. I'm just hoping and praying that we can get this going again in another year or so when the gyms and everything start opening up again and everybody supports it, and hopefully it'll get bigger. We've actually had, I remember I looked in the programs, 'cause I've saved all the programs from all those years, and in the programs, I counted 48 different sports that we actually did in the games at one time or another, which is pretty cool. You know, they have 48 sports. Now, if you didn't do a good job, then I'd probably let you go about 3 or 4 years, and I'd probably just say that if you don't do a better job, then I'll have to have somebody else do it, or we just don't do that sport. So that's why it was so important for the commissioners to do what they did. And so it was really special that they helped me out, and everything turned out okay. And I know I've made mistakes. You know, we all make mistakes, and I guess I didn't have to. I guess Andres is going to have to figure out what to do with all those. You know, every year we got caught one time, and I didn't have anything to do with it. We had a marketing company help me with the games, and they messed up and tried to do it cheaply, and so we didn't have enough medals to give out. We were way short actually on the medals, and so we had to figure out a way to mail them all out and all that stuff, which is a pain in the neck. It really is. And so it was just something that I will never do again. But Andres and the board and everybody's gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do with those 400, 500, 600, 700 shirts that were left over, and all the medals that were left over.
They already got rid of them.
I guess they got rid of them, you said, because we had a lot when you figure it out how many it is. But anyway, this was a big surprise because, like I said, it was kind of a shock that I thought I was coming for a meeting, something to do about the games. and seriously, this shocked me. I mean, it really was, and I just really appreciate this and thank all of you, everybody here, a lot for supporting me all this time. And I guess I've stopped crying for right now. but anyway, and, you know, I haven't ever said anything about the media and that too, but all the media, God, they've been great. Everybody's been great. I can't say anything bad about anybody or anything because, you know, the city backed me for all these years and let me do it. And I think the thing that I did with the city that I'll admit now is I didn't ever ask him I didn't tell him what I was doing, and I didn't ask him what I was doing. And Adrian knows that, and so does Alicia. You know, I just did it, and then after I retired, then they found out, because then I wasn't getting what I thought I was getting, you know. And it was funny how the city just they really worked with me though. As God, without the city, this would have been impossible to even do. And anyway, I've already talked too much. I thought with Henry and Adrian, they did such a good job, but I wanted to make sure to tell everybody thanks, and I guess you're next.
All right, Fred, don't go anywhere yet. And so, Fred, setting you off is one of the key things here that we want to just say thank you again for everything you've done for New Mexico. And you are our athlete of the eternity of ever, you know. And so we will have you light our torch as your final send-off into retirement. And so we're going to get that going here. So if you would like to step on over there, and we'll get the lighting of the torch going so we can officially kick off the 2021 New Mexico Games. All right, hold on real quick before you light it. Let's get some pictures and Smile. Everyone wants pictures of you. Uh-oh. All right, go ahead and get in there and light it to kick off. And the New Mexico Games have officially kicked off, ladies and gentlemen, for 2021.